As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. The longer you have exposure to people that have a strong narcissistic bent, the more you realize how necessary it is for you to have safeguards up. It's kind of sad to have to think like that. You have to learn how to manage your own self-care because these people are looking for someone to dominate. Now, it may be that you in your earlier days with a narcissist may not have really had much reason in your mind to think that you have to be that way. I mean, you're the kind of person that wants to be loyal, and you're the kind of person that wants to go along to get along, and you want to be a team player. But the narcissist is over there thinking, I think I can work this. I can use this to my advantage. And they're constantly trying to maneuver for ways to secure their position of superiority, which means that they're going to put you in the inferior position. And it's really sad to think that that's how they operate. And so there you are trying to bring good ingredients to the table, and you can inadvertently make certain mistakes that in the long run will work against you. So that being the case, I want to identify with you today 8 of some of the most common mistakes that people can make that cause them to become more and more pulled in by the narcissist. And this underscores how essential it is for you to know how they operate so that you can go into the practice of your own self-care. So let's see if we can identify these. Now, mistake number 1 that I want you to be aware of is this. Don't underestimate the hold that narcissism has upon that individual. Now, what I mean is, let's keep in mind just a very cursory understanding of what narcissism is will tell you this is not a good way to live. Trying to dominate other individuals, wanting to be in total control over people, they invalidate you and they go into the blame shifting kind of mode. They don't feel any need to have empathy. They have no problem at all being a manipulator. They'll use people and then do it some more. They're pathologically defensive. I mean, you take a look at all of these ingredients, like it's hard to justify that. And yet there they are. They're deeply committed to that pattern of life, which says that narcissists are inside their own prison of their own making. And yet the whole time that you're engaging with them, you realize also they've got this whole thing rationalized. And so that being the case, you can think to yourself, well, maybe things will get better as time goes on. It's like, no, there's something very pathological here. You need to respect what that means and what it can do to you. A second mistake that you want to make sure that you avoid, and that is don't be fooled when they give the implication or the impression that they share the same values as you or the same standards as you. Let's keep in mind that one of the common ingredients that goes right along with narcissism is the chameleon way of living. They live inside a false self. They're constantly figuring out how they have to portray themselves so that they can be in the advantaged position. And so there could be times when they can let you think that they believe as you, but then when they're around someone else, they'll do the same thing to them. And they just kind of shift gears wherever they need to. What they show on the outside is not consistent with what's on the inside, because on the inside is that need for dominance. You can't afford to take narcissists at face value, which means you need to go really slow in getting to know them. Now, this leads directly to a third mistake that you can make, and that is absolutely do not share personal information with a narcissist. Now, I know that some of you already have done that. Many times, narcissists can give the impression up front that they're approachable. They may even seem to share some of their own vulnerabilities. Of course, later on, when you look back upon their sharing of their vulnerabilities, they're taking a victim's mode. And in sharing, they're actually just being critical towards other people. They may say something like, yeah, I had this bad relationship and boy, was it rough. Of course, they were so this, that, and the other. And all they do is they just blame shift onto that. And you realize that's not being vulnerable. They're just being critical. They want you to share personal information. So if they can kind of get the ball rolling, they will. And then you find out later on that whatever information that you do disclose about yourself, particularly if it's some of your vulnerabilities or mistakes, can and will be used against you. That's how they operate. And it's pretty sad to think that you have to be very careful in terms of turning over trust to them. A fourth mistake that you want to avoid is don't expect them to understand you. Now, I want you to think, how many times have you entered into some sort of pleading with that person, hoping that you're going to say the right words so that they'll finally understand who you are and make the healthy adjustments? That ever happened to you? Like too many times to count? The bottom line is when you plead your case, they are thinking one thing and one thing only, and that is, in this moment, how can I get an advantage over you? And so if you're trying to get them to understand, they'll go into that invalidation and they'll go into the blame shifting. And so it actually becomes fuel for their inappropriate kind of behavior, which then leads to a fifth mistake that you want to avoid, and that is don't go into battle with a narcissist. How many times have you gotten so angry and so tense and so frustrated that you think, well, if you're going to give me some bad stuff, I'm going to give it right back at you. And this is one of those things that I know some people take issue with me on, in the sense that it's like, hey, if they're going to kick you, you need to kick them right back. And my thing is, no, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to go into battle because you know what? That makes me just like them. And I can't afford to let that happen. And so I'm not going to give them that kind of pleasure. By the way, it doesn't mean that you don't stand up for yourself, and I'll get to that in just a minute. A sixth mistake that you don't want to make is don't underestimate their neediness. These are approval junkies. These are individuals who hunger for a sense of affirmation, and their mantra is, feed me, feed me. As long as you remain with them, they're going to look to you to give them narcissistic supply. And so the more you reveal about yourself, the more you try to engage with them, then they're going to try to work it out so that they wind up sucking whatever energy there is out of you and then turning it into an advantage for themselves. They're needy people, and they will come at you just like a junkie does after their drug of choice. A seventh mistake, and this is one that I know some of you, it may be a ship that's already sailed, but try not to let yourself get financially dependent upon these individuals. I have had so many people who operate with what I call the golden handcuffs, whether it's inside a family or a marriage or a place of work. They're tied so tightly to that narcissist for their own financial well-being that it's very difficult for them to break away because, well, there goes the money if they do that. And so one of the things that you want to have as you engage with these individuals is you want to have your own ability to take care of yourself if the need comes where you have to move away. And I know, like I say, some of you that have been tied to these individuals for so long, this is a big one. But as best as you can, you want to have as much financial independence as is possible because they'll use that to their advantage all day long. And then an eighth mistake that you want to try to avoid, and that is don't assume that you're going to be the one who's going to make that narcissist change. The thing that you need to remember is no matter who's on the stage with them, they are going to be what they are. And you're not going to be the one that says you've got to do things different, because what they'll do is they'll just go on to someone else and they're going to give the exact same ingredients to that person. It's not about you, it's about them, and they're committed in their own twisted kind of way to their pathology. So these 8 mistakes that I've just mentioned, and there are actually more that we could go into, highlight one major truth, and that is someone needs to expend a great deal of energy keeping you out of the narcissist's clutches. And you know who that one person is, don't you? It's you. I'm hoping that you know and understand your non-narcissistic values, your non-narcissistic life patterns, and you stand upon that. Now, I mentioned you don't want to go into battle with them, but that doesn't mean that you just lay down. You need to be quite firm in who you are. And when necessary, you apply consequences, you apply stipulations, you stand firmly in your own standards, knowing full well that they want to go into battle. You're not going to go into battle. What you're going to go into is resoluteness. And I'm hoping that you can be that kind of a person. Let's keep in mind that this narcissist is not someone that you can afford to admit into your inner circle. So barring some sort of miracle, the narcissist is going to remain who they are. That means the adjustment has to come on your side of the equation. So that being the case, I'm hoping that you can conclude, I care way too much about my psychological safety. And being a member of Team Healthy, I'm going to learn from whatever mistakes or miscalculations that I have made with that narcissist. And then I'm going to stand in my own sense of self-regard. I hope that's a mindset that you can cling to and cling to strongly. Okay? If you've not already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. And we'll keep more videos coming at you, and hit the notification bell that goes with it. I don't know if you've noticed, Gus is actually snoring back there. I guess I'm a little boring to him. Hope I'm not to you. Anyway, Gus is my little buddy. He slept through another one. If you have a need, and many times as you look into these kind of topics, you realize, yeah, I could use some therapy. And I'm hoping that if that's the case, that you would certainly take advantage of that possibility. Below, we have a link with a sponsor that I strongly embrace. There's a whole team of licensed professional therapists that can help you with online therapy, and that's become a very popular and viable way of engaging with that. And so if that's a need, I would encourage you to go through that means to get the help you need. In addition, I have my courses, and we have links below to that. And these are courses that go into boundaries and finding yourselves and learning how to have healthy relationships. And each course has multiple videos and written material and personal reflections, questions. And so if those would be some things that that you would find to be therapeutic, I would strongly encourage you to do that. In addition, I have my books, and we have other resources below. I know that sometimes you can be mistaken in some of your optimistic desires that you would have with that person, but as you are able to identify those mistakes, then you can make your corrections, and I'm hoping you can continue in the direction that we on Team Healthy want to go. We stand for dignity, respect, and civility, and I want you to be a kind of person that says, that's the kind of person I'm going to be with, and I choose not to connect myself with folks that are going to go in an opposite direction. That being the case, it positions you to be a person of peace. I so want you to be one who finds peace.